yeah, I donated a kidney, but quite honestly, I know it was something, but it was really nothing. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
It was,
yeah, yeah,
I get
yeah.
it, but who wouldn't do that for their loved one? You would do that for your children in a
Of
heartbeat.
course.
There's a lot of
Yep.
guys say, I couldn't do that. I said, you do that in a heartbeat because that's
Yes.
what that's
Yeah.
what real men do. I always went to the doctor and I was on pills, and so I never went and had a calcium score or anything like that done. So one of the beautiful things about donating the kidney also was they do a complete check over of your whole body.
Mm.
A psychiatrist, um, a pulmonologist, a cardiologist. I had high cholesterol. I was on I don't know how many different drugs. I'm not on anything.
Welcome to the CoachMD podcast. I'm Dr. Charles Glassman, bringing you 3 decades of experience as a physician and a coach. Join us as we navigate the maze of medical advice with real-life stories, empowering you to take charge of your health. In our That Happens segment, guests share transformative experiences, reminding us that we're all human and not just patients. So get ready for a journey into healthcare reimagined, where empowerment and discovery pave the way. Hey, it's Dr. Charles, aka Coach MD. In my over 30 years of medical practice, I made it my goal to help people create strong minds, healthy bodies, and unshakable spirits. And I like to have incredible people on my program, and one of those people is right staring me right down right now. And how do you pronounce your last name, Dave?
It's Rueckl, kind of like pickle, but Rueckl. It's a
Yeah.
German
So
name.
so Dave Rueckl has a great story to tell, both from a medical point of view. We're going to talk about his CrossFit journey because, as many of you know, I've had this podcast series, the Masters podcast series, and Dave and I are contemporary, 60 plus CrossFit Masters. So definitely going to talk about that. But uh, Dave has an interesting life story to tell because it has to do with something that is so selfless and so uh, beautiful. And I want to start talking about that first. And tell us a little bit about that story, Dave. You know what I'm talking about.
Sure, sure.
Yeah,
Well, thanks, Charles. Yeah, thanks for having me on.
yeah.
So, we have a daughter, Becky, who is very sick, and she has a disease called Hemlock-Schleien purpura, HSP. It's an auto immune disorder.
Mm,
So she lost her kidneys at a very young age, at 12.
wow.
So she was transplanted by her uncle John at that time, was the closest match to her. She's an O positive. So John donated the kidney, and that lasted until she was 18 years old. Then at
Wow.
18, she lost her kidney again, and she was then transplanted at around 20 years old. We did in-home peritoneal dialysis at that time, and then she got a cadaver kidney at that time. So that lasted until she was 44, and now she's 44, and she
Mm,
got she didn't get sick, but the kidney was just done. It had lived its lifetime, so
mhm,
she needed another kidney. Well, since she had that cadaver kidney, there's a new thing called the NKR. It's the National Kidney Registry. So what that does, it helps families like ours out that um, don't match their loved one but want to donate a kidney. So we donate to this pool, and then your loved one gets a voucher. So I decided that my wife first stepped up. Gail stepped up first, and she said, "I'm going to donate the kidney." She's an A positive, just like I am.
mm.
So, and Becky is actually my stepdaughter, my bonus child. So that's why I don't match her also. But
Yeah.
anyway, Gail went through the process, and she had high blood pressure, and they deemed her not able to donate.
Mm,
So I said, well, let's see if I do it. And so after going through all these tests down in Madison, the only thing I had to do was lose weight. I was 295 pounds, and they told me that I needed to be under 240 to donate. So we went through the process and did the tests and changed my diet. 90% of weight loss is done in the kitchen.
Hmm.
And my wife is a chef. So Gail started to cook differently. We were both very motivated. Everybody has a why to
Mm.
getting fit or losing their weight,
Yeah.
and this was our why. So to save our daughter, we needed to lose weight, and so Gail took that very seriously. We started to eat nutritious. My buddy Tom Famry, who you've met,
Yeah.
was a huge inspiration for me, and he said, "Dave, you got to walk. You got to change your diet and just walk." So I started to lose the weight, and then I made it to where I needed to be,
Yeah.
and I donated the kidney in May of 2023.
Wow. So when you say a voucher, so that means that if you donate a kidney, somebody else, a family member on the registry moves up a notch, or how does that?
So sure. So there's two programs in the
Yeah.
NKR. One is the paired program, and one is the voucher. The paired program would mean that I'm in the program with our Becky, and when they match her, they try and match me, and they find a donor, and then there's just a two-way circle. So my kidney goes to your family comes to our
I see.
family, and
Yeah.
it's done. But what happens is there's also a voucher program where families, for whatever reason, for convenience, will donate early. So they go in at their convenience, donate the kidney, and then the recipient gets to the top of the list. The next O positive kidney that hits the pool belongs to Becky or to whoever because you've already donated. That end of the the chain
Yeah.
is already done. So when we did this, first we were in the paired program, and she got passed over on a kidney, and so then Becky said to me, Dave, we got to have this tough conversation. If you have the voucher, I could get the kidney, and I said, well, let's go then.
Mm.
So we signed up, we changed that program, and about 2 weeks later, I was donating my kidney. So my kidney went to a gentleman down in Atlanta, Georgia, who I've met, and
Yeah.
it was wonderful, and we share a bond now that is just very unique.
Yeah, I'll say. And just to kind of backtrack, just for my audience, fill in some of the gaps, the understanding. Now, our kidneys are the major filter source of our body, and it filters out toxins in our body. It gets rid of waste products. As protein breaks down, it can build up urea nitrogen in the blood. It can build up other toxins. It can build up potassium can get too high, phosphorus can get too high. And so these are minerals that our kidneys generally flush out. So Dave was talking about his daughter was getting peritoneal dialysis. Now, some people know hemodialysis, where you go to a center 3 days a week and you have a catheter in your arm, go through a process about 3 hours worth of filtering the blood, totally wipes you out. Usually that's for older people who they have end stage kidney disease, renal disease, and they're basically they're not going back to work or their life. They're going back into their life. A lot of younger patients, people will go through peritoneal dialysis, which is at home, usually a daily process, sometimes overnight, where you have a catheter in your stomach and it flushes a fluid which absorbs toxins into it and then goes out the other way through diffusion or osmosis, whatever. So, that's what's done. So that's very onerous, though, for someone to have to do that all the time is very difficult. So that's why someone who could donate a kidney is great. Now that puts, now Dave, who donated a kidney, has one kidney. And so
Correct.
a lot of people will think, oh my goodness, I could never do that because I need both kidneys. So tell me how your life has changed uh, with having donated the kidney and now having just one kidney, if at all.
Sure,
Yeah.
sure. So I just want to touch base on
Yeah.
what you just talked about, the peritoneal and the the hemo. So Becky did peritoneal at home when she was the 18-year-old, but now they've advanced it, and she has an in-home
Oh,
hemodialysis
wow.
machine.
Okay.
So so instead of being on for 3 hours every other day, it's like an hour and a half every day.
Wow.
Or she can do a longer treatment. So she could do a longer treatment and do it every other day or whatever. But it's come a long way from when we did the peritoneal at home.
Yeah.
But
Wow.
so the greatest thing that's happened with donating this kidney is that I got fit. It's been a blessing in disguise, and we talk about it all the time, that by donating a kidney, I'm adding years to my life. And I am in the best shape of my life right now. I got
Mhm.
I got a ways to go, but I joined a gym called CrossFit Green Bay, and the membership there is great. The coaching staff is phenomenal. I go in 5 days a week, and the coaches there really they understand older bodies because we
Mhm.
are not as mobile as a lot of the people that we work out with, right? We work out
Yeah.
with young people all the time. But the owners of CrossFit Green Bay took it when I went to meet them and kind of interview them per
Mm.
se, because I had no idea what I was getting into. Tom was into it. He was so much fitter than I was, and I just didn't know if I was gonna fit in there. And Cody and Justin, who are the owners of CrossFit Green Bay, tailored programs to my ability, and that's what I learned what scaling was all about. I didn't
Mhm.
understand scaling at all. So they said, you just come and you'll do the same workouts, but we're going to scale them back,
Mhm.
and we'll have you doing things that you won't believe you'll be able to do. And so they told me that if I showed up every day and I trusted the process and I was consistent and did everything, good things would happen. So, you know, I'm 62, going to be 63 in about 15 days, something like that. I deadlift 417 and a half.
Wow.
Yeah, I
Awesome.
can snatch 145, which isn't that big, but it's big enough,
It's
right?
big
And
enough. If anybody
yeah,
knows
and
snatching, that is big enough, believe me.
yeah. So I mean, I'm in the best shape of my life, and
Yeah.
and I'm very thankful for this. So in the process of me getting fit and joining the gym and doing all this stuff, there was another person at our gym, Trisha, who was following my story with our
Mm.
daughter and this whole thing, and she was so inspired that she donated a kidney just because she didn't have any skin in the game at
Mm.
all,
Wow.
but she just thought it was so cool and she wanted to do that. And I actually texted her to make sure that it was okay that I mentioned her name,
Okay.
and
Yeah.
she said yeah, and she said she's actually looking into donating a lobe of her liver right now. So that
Wow.
all came from our Becky and me donating a kidney, and so there's a lot of lives that have been changed because of it.
It's interesting, and that's a lot of people will think, oh, I don't want to donate anything because it's going to shorten my life. And as you
Oh
mentioned, it actually doesn't because you have more intense scrutiny. First of all, self-scrutiny. You know what
yeah,
you have to do to stay healthy, but
yeah,
also medically. I imagine you go for more routine checkups,
yeah.
or keep monitored, and that's also something which is important to keep healthy. And I know we had this discussion kind of online about uh, what a lot of healthcare practitioners really don't get about CrossFit or heavy working out because here you're telling us that you have one kidney and everyone knows or thinks about the kidney, as I said, about the filtering, meaning you need to flush. Your body needs to have enough fluid in it to flush through the kidney. And um, a lot of doctors don't understand the pathophysiology of working out and muscle, and could actually give you wrong advice. Like we were talking about creatine, and um, all the athletes that I've talked to on this podcast are all taking creatine. I take creatine. Uh, what I've seen, I used to be one of those doctors who would poo-poo it because I knew nothing about it. It's called cognitive bias. Okay. I have the cognition of a doctor who has a bias because I'm not taking creatine back in the day, 10, 15 years ago. I'm going to tell everyone, oh, it's not good for you because I didn't know about it. I thought creatine sounds a lot like creatinine, all right? And we know that when the kidney starts failing, creatinine, which creatine is a byproduct of muscle breakdown, so is creatinine. It's similar. So one's creatinine could go up a little bit with creatine intake, but that doesn't mean the kidneys are failing. Creatine is not a danger to the kidney. All it is a marker of kidney function. So there are better ways to measure kidney function than creatinine. So if a doctor, just for the audience, if somebody is concerned about taking creatine and is concerned about their kidney function, here I was talking to Dave and said that it's it's safe at the usual recommended doses, 3 to 5 grams a day. I personally don't even take that much, but if one wanted to
Yeah.
take 5 grams a day, as long as they're hydrated and keep hydrated, it doesn't have any effect on the kidneys, especially if you have
Now you
reduced
got to
kidney.
stay hydrated.
Got to stay
And
hydrated.
that's with anything with the kidney. I drink um my body weight in ounces every day. That's my goal. So I try
Yeah.
and drink 235 ounces of water a day.
Yeah. Wow, that's great.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So now tell us about you said you had the relationship, but a special relationship, and I can imagine with the gentleman in Georgia. Um,
Sure.
totally random, right? He got your kidney from the data bank. You knew no,
So
yeah,
so so what here's what happened is
yeah,
when you're in the NKR, they you sign your life away. They can do whatever they want with the kidney. Now they in a perfect world they like to keep it within the NKR. They had so many A positive kidneys at that time with the voucher that they went outside the NKR. So they traded for 5 kidneys from another hospital
wow,
for my kidney. Yeah, so it was really a pretty cool story. So anyway, the gentleman from Atlanta came up to Madison Hospital, and so we were actually on the same floor at the same
mm,
time. And when I was so I had my surgery on the 23rd of May, and on the 26th of May, forgive me, and uh, I was up that day and I was home on the 27th. It was phenomenal. But I had walked the hallways looking for, I wonder who got my kidney, and
right?
there's a process um, to meeting.
Yes,
You
I
write, so the recipient had to write to the procurement office. I have a hard time with that word.
right.
So he had to write to the procurement office, and then they sanitize it, so any postmarks or whatever comes through Madison. So you just get a generic letter saying, "Hello, my name is Hassan. I'm a um, father of three and husband and things like that. And I was on dialysis for 18 months, and my kidney's working great, and I thank you." And then I have to respond whether I want to or not. Is up to me. So if I don't respond, the process ends right there. So then I respond and I tell them a little bit about me, and then I just say, if you would like to contact me, this is my number, and I can give him that information. So it takes a little bit of a while. They let you sit maybe 3 or 4 months before that all happens. And then I was sitting around watching TV one night with my wife, and my phone rang. And I said to Gail, I don't recognize this number. And I picked it up, and it was him. And so
Wow.
we talked for an hour and a half, and we touched on all sorts of things. And it was really he's a pastor down in Atlanta, and so it was just a wonderful thing. And so, he sends me little texts every once in a while now, and he's praying for our Becky. And as soon as we learned that our Becky was going to get her kidney on the 30th of April, he was one of the first calls I made. Yeah, so it's just really nice. So he came up here last year for an appointment at the hospital, and we have a little charter fishing service here in Algoma. And I said to him, "Why don't you come and we'll go fishing one day?" And he had never been on Lake Michigan, so he came up and we caught a few fish in the afternoon and sent him on home. And it was good. It's really nice. And you know, he calls his kidney Dave, and he says Dave is working overtime. And as you know, kidneys come in different sizes, right?
Yeah.
So I'm a big guy. I'm about 6'3.5", and so I have very large kidneys. And the nephrologist actually said, whoever gets this kidney is going to be really lucky. And so he's doing wonderfully.
Oh, that's great. Just kind of an aside, I know you have a charter fishing company, and what fish is the most popular that people want out of Lake Michigan?
Chinook salmon.
Okay,
Chinook salmon are the king salmon.
Yeah.
They are just really mean fish, and we catch some that are like we catch a lot of 20-pounders, 25-pounders are we catch a few of those, and then every once in a while we'll get a 30-pounder, but they really pull. They're mean fish.
Right.
We have 2 charter boats, and we have 2 captains that run each boat. They're way better fishermen than I will ever be, but Captain Tyler runs the Gale Force, and Captain Riley runs the Mad Russian. And just a quick story on that. My wife's name is Gail. So Gale Force was the first boat we had, and then Gail is first generation Ukrainian. So sometimes when she gets a little feisty with me, I will say, "Here comes the Mad Russian." And so it's just kind of a fun little story. And Gail approved both boat names before we did it.
Yes.
She designed the logos, and it was nice. It's fun.
Great. That's awesome. Now, we have something in common. You had a hip replacement a while back, you had a bilateral hip replacement, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
Yep.
And I had a unilateral, or just on one side. And so that's another, a lot of people, like, here you were donating a kidney, you had to get in shape. That could be such an objection that people would have. Oh, no, I can't do that because I had hip replacements. Has that hindered you in any way in your job?
I had a bilateral hip replacement in 2013. And I can tell you this, what it does do is I don't have the hip mobility that I should. So going up and down, squatting, all the rest of that stuff is good, but opening my hips up to the side is very difficult. I have a very difficult time doing burpees because I can't get my legs wide enough to jump forward.
Right.
So I always step up, and it just adds more to it. But no, I actually called my hip guy when I started CrossFit because I wanted to make sure that I didn't lift too heavy. Was there any restrictions? And he said no. His name is Dr. Schnabelt, and he said, I put your hips in that you can do whatever you want. I have the anterior approach. Did you have the anterior?
I did. Yes, I did. Anterior. Yeah.
So are you a taller gentleman?
No, I'm short stature. Yeah, I'm short.
Yeah, because he told me he likes to do the anterior approach for taller guys because that way I didn't have to worry about getting my knees above my hips. Had you ever heard that before?
I've never heard that. Interesting, because talking about I don't have too much of an issue, and I just climbed a rope for the first time on last week, and to do that you have to scrunch up really into a ball and get your hips your
Sure.
knees above your hips substantially. And
Yeah.
yeah, no, I didn't have an issue, which is
So that I can
yeah,
do. I can go up and down.
yeah,
It's sideways, just to spread my legs a little bit wider.
yeah,
But
you
up
know,
and
I could
down, I
see
can
that.
squat,
There
I
you
can
go.
thrust, I can.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
that's yeah, so yeah, so that it's not an objection. That's what I,
No,
getting at is
not
for,
at all.
audience.
No.
Yeah. So, I mean, as we get older, like you said, you're going to be 63. I'm 65. I was 65 in December. And, you know, it's an objection here. You put yourself, people would think behind the eight ball to get going, but no, it's actually propelled you. And that's really great, Dave. I mean, I admire you
Yeah.
so much. Just, all the work you're doing, you're putting in, and sound like you have a really great camaraderie and fellowship in that gym that
In the
in
gym.
Green Bay. Yeah,
The
that's
gym, I don't know how big your classes are where you go, but our classes we go to at 8:15 are typically somewhere between 8 to 21 people.
yeah, that's about
and
what we
and I
do.
just love that. I love that vibe. When you have 21 people in the gym at the same time, the other day we were deadlifting and all the clinks on the floor, and it's just a
Right.
different vibe. It's cool, and it's just, I really enjoy it. The people are, it's so cliche. You hear it all the time. It's the community that brings you back, right? It's the
Yeah.
community, but it is the community, and our community is very special,
Yeah.
very special.
Yeah. Now, had you ever worked out in a class format before you did this?
The only push-ups I did came in a box, and you had to push them out of a toilet paper roll. It was sherbet. Those are the only push-ups I ever did.
Yeah.
So no, I had I was a athlete in high school, but once I got out of high school, it was you're always going to get back in shape, right? You could see yourself getting a little bit fluffier, and
Yeah.
I always said, well, I'll get back in shape someday. I'll get back in shape someday. And then next thing I knew, I was just really big, and that's where the gym and Tom and my wife really, like I said, Gail makes delicious, nutritious food all the time, and
Wow.
and
Nice.
it falls on her. And like I said, she's a chef. She's a culinary expert, and so she makes beautiful meals for me all the time. And I tell people, they ask me where I like to go out to eat. I said my own kitchen table, because I get the best meal I can have right there. But once Gail started cooking, whole foods, and really buying into it, and she liked to make all the sauces and all that stuff, and once we got away from the high calorie counts and things like that, and just ate really nice EVOO on some chicken or whatever, it changed a lot, and I just feel better. I have so much more energy.
Yeah. Yeah. People don't realize, but like you said, you got out of high school, and all someone has to do is, so let's say, it was 40 years ago. Let's say just, for easy, 40 years when you were 20, and then 40 years go by, you're 60. If you only gain a pound a year or 2 pounds a year, say 2 pounds a year, you're 80 pounds heavier than you were when you were
Yeah,
20. It's not that difficult. We can
yeah,
gain a pound a day. You can gain 2 pounds in a weekend easily, easily.
easily.
Yeah. So it really is about consistency and keeping up with
Discipline.
yeah, discipline. It's,
Mhm.
and it's self-discipline. It's really challenging. And, I know that you just had again, we talk about as we get older, things come up, and you had recent surgery on your eyes, right?
Yes, yeah.
Tell me a little bit about that, because I'm interested in learning more about that
Yeah. So
personally.
I've had glasses for a very, very, very long time, and uh, I had a business for many, many years, and we sold it. I had a oil company, but just a small operation, but I did the deliveries on my own and did
Hmm.
my own calls and things like that. And so I started very early in the morning. So I was driving down the road about 4 o'clock in the morning and it was raining. And all of a sudden, I met one of these cars with the bright LED headlights and
Mm-hmm.
it blinded me.
Wow.
And I had never had that happen before.
Mm.
And my eye doctor had been watching for cataract in my eyes. And so I went back to him and he said, you're to the point we have to do something, Dave. And I said, okay, fine. And he referred me to a place in Green Bay. And I went in there and they talked about the different types of surgeries I could have done. And then I said, well, can I get rid of glasses? And he said, sure, there's a trifocal lens that we can put in your eye. And there was 3 tiers, right? And everything comes at a cost.
Right.
And so I got the information. I came back home. I talked it over with Gail, and she said, "Well, what do you want to do?" And I said, "I want to get the trifocal lens." So on the 9th of April, they did my left eye because that was the worst. And then the following week, they did my right eye. So now I had them both done for about a week now. And I went to the eye doctor yesterday. This eye is 20/20. This one's 20/30.
Wow.
And it's only going to get better.
Now, when you say trifocal, do you have to do any adjustment in what you're doing? You just that's what it is.
Nope. I'm
Yeah.
just looking at you right now, and that's great. And if I stare off over here, so I have distance, mid, and I can read my phone.
Wow. That's
Yeah,
great.
it
I'll
is.
I'll have to
And
look into
yeah,
that.
it's really
Yeah.
it's just another one of those life altering things for
Yeah.
me. It's it's funny because when I had my left eye done, I thought my wife had changed a light bulb in the kitchen because it was so much brighter.
Wow.
And I said that to the doctor, and he said, "Yeah, well, you get the yellowing out of your eye, and now it's crystal clear." And so these are actual lenses that they put in your eye, and so my eyes will never age per se.
Yeah, yeah. Well,
Yeah,
those are the great things, modern medicine, and I talk a lot about my podcast that, I challenge the norms. And I always, when I was in practice, I always was kind of an out of the box doctor, and I always challenged the status quo because as we know, it could be misleading, and
yes,
but there are certain things in medicine, certain procedures, certain interventions that are really revolutionary and amazing.
oh,
Like the kidney transplant. Here you are, you're able to give a kidney, save somebody else's life, and it's remarkable. You can get hip replacements and go from decreased mobility and I know myself that really was impairing my ability to work out
sure.
and then it changes overnight. You have your eye surgery and it's life changing. I mean it really is. And so there are and so I just want my listeners to know I'm not down on medicine and I never was. I just like to question and
Yeah.
not just go with the company line and so yeah, so that's I just want to put that out there. So
So
um
when you
yeah,
touch on the surgery for the kidney,
yeah.
Becky's uncle John, when he did it, that would have been in like 2000 and that would no, it would have been earlier than that.
Long
I'm
time
trying to
ago.
do the math. I'm trying to do the math backwards
Yeah,
right now.
right.
But
Yeah.
anyway, his scars. He was in the hospital longer than Becky was because they went through the back and
Mm.
they broke ribs and they cut everything out. And his scars are the whole length of his back. I have 5 1-inch cuts on
Mm.
my right side, and it was all done laparoscopically.
Yeah, wow.
And like I said, he was in the hospital for almost 8 days after donating his kidney. I was home in less than 24 hours.
Wow. Yeah.
You know, and it's modern medicine, like you said. Where would we be, Charles,
Yeah.
if hip replacement wasn't here? We'd be in wheelchairs.
Yes,
I know I'd be
absolutely.
in a wheelchair.
Yeah.
And the key to my health came when I got my life back, when I could walk upright again, because I was
Mm.
leaning over when I was walking. Everything hurt.
Yeah.
So yeah, you're so right. It's so medicine is wonderful. The advancements that they're making, and I just pray that someday they find a real cure for cancer and some of these diseases, you know.
Absolutely.
So Becky is going through something right now that I think you'll find interesting.
Yes, please. Sure.
She's
Yeah.
she's going through a process called plasmapheresis. Are
Hmm.
you familiar with that?
Yes, I am. Yep. But tell us about
So
it. Tell us. Yeah.
okay, so she's going through that. So this kidney, it's knocking out the antibodies in her system. So this kidney will have a much better chance of really accepting her body. So the other thing with the NKR is there's all the antigens, right? That got to match up other than just blood type. And so in the NKR, they want a really good match because, quite honestly, at the end of the day, it's all about numbers, right?
Hmm.
They want to say that they have really good success, so they pull more people in. So they're very fussy about the matches that they want, and I believe they have to have a minimum 10 antigens that match in order to give you a kidney. So I don't recall what Becky had said was the perfect match, but she's one antigen away from being a perfect match,
Wow.
which is just, it's going to be a wonderful day.
Yeah. That's
Yeah.
great. Yeah. So that's set for next week, right?
Yeah. 6 days from today.
Yeah. Wow. Well, we're
Yeah.
praying for her and
Yeah.
wishing
Thank you.
you and her, your whole family
Yeah.
well. And
She's such a cute little,
yeah.
little shit. She really
Right.
is. She's 100 pounds soaking wet. Just
Yeah.
a very, my wife Gail is a very small framed girl like that too, but
Yeah. We
she's led
lost.
a very good life for somebody that's had as much adversity as what she's had. She's a dietitian, and she works with different nursing homes and things like that, and she's made a nice little business for herself. She did a good job. She had a son. They didn't think she would ever get pregnant, and
Mm.
she did. So yeah, so God is good.
Yeah, yeah, that's awesome. Well, thank you for sharing that,
Yeah,
Dave. And yeah, I just I love talking about your story. I think it's I know Tom. You introduced me to Tom, who's been to the games and
yeah.
which is phenomenal. Great person, great guy, and I really love your story and just your
Thank
heart.
you,
It just comes out to
thank you.
us, and I really appreciate that and
Yeah,
appreciate you
Tom
and
qualified again this year
yeah,
for
I didn't
for.
doubt it. Yeah,
Yeah,
but
yeah. He's
yeah.
he's something.
Yeah, so before we end, I'm going to give
Sure.
you the rapid fire this or that as I give
Okay.
all my CrossFit athletes, okay?
Sure.
And whatever comes first, I think I know how you're going to answer this one. Thrusters or burpees?
Thrusters. Or
Thrust.
both. Which one I like the best or which one I hate the most?
No, no, no. Which ones you like? No, which ones you like the best?
Okay, definitely thrusters.
Right, right. Assault bike or rower?
A rower.
Okay. Deadlifts or back squats?
Deadlift.
Yeah, I figured. Power snatch or clean and jerk?
Clean and jerk.
All right. Wall balls or devil's press?
Wall balls.
Okay, very good. All right, Dave. You can stay on
Those are
a
all
few.
big man things.
Yeah, right. uh, yeah, so you'll stay on after we part because I want to share some things with you. But thank you
Sure.
again for
Oh, thank you.
it's really great talking with you, and I appreciate the time on the Coach MD podcast. And thanks everyone for joining us. Until next time, I'm Dr. Charles, aka Coach MD, urging you to stay strong in mind, in body, especially right here in soul. Bye for now.